Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing today? Many, many blessings. It is the 3rd of January, 2026, and I am happy, very, very happy to report that the concerns that we have been airing from January 1st has been addressed by our president. And that is such a great thing, especially with what is currently unfolding in the region. And that is my main concern, because there is local politics and there is geopolitics. And for persons who are only focused on the local politics, then you are missing the bigger picture. And I say this to all PPP supporters predominantly, because I know over the last couple of days, I think, those supporters were probably thinking that maybe I'm against the government, right? Which is not necessarily the case. My function as a commentator here, as a media personality, as a citizen of Guyana, is to see that Guyana is moving forward in the right direction. Now, over the last few days, you would have heard some statements from us dealing with the constitutional controversy of not swearing in an opposition leader. However, the president has made a response to those situations. And the response was very direct, and that is that they will be swearing in an opposition leader very shortly. Whether that opposition leader is a male or a female, that is left to question. Okay? I pretty much figured that's the hint that he gave to ensure that they don't plan on swearing in Mr. Azuddin Mohammed, but they do plan on swearing in an opposition leader. Who or what that opposition leader would be, I can't pick that. I don't know. That is up for the members of the opposition to make their declaration on who that person would be. Right. Now, to the meat of the matter. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, there are currently reports that the Venezuelan president and his wife have been captured and flown to the United States of America. Now, I want to use this as the speaking point, because this is exactly what I myself and other members try to prevent. Okay? Is we do not want to come across to the rest of the world as if we are some type of dictating service, right? Or dictatorship, as persons would call it. So actions that are carried out must be carried out in a lawful manner. And I'm very, very happy and content that our president has addressed the matter and has reassured the population that there will be a swearing in. Okay? That there will be a swearing in of an opposition leader. Now, based on that statement, and based on the statement being made, whether it is a man or a woman, more than likely means that some crowd favorites may be flown out very shortly. Okay? I want people to understand that America is a serious candidate. Okay? And if they feel that there are undemocratic practices that are being carried out, especially in an area that they consider their backyard, they're going to act upon it. Okay? Pay attention to the Venezuela system. Okay? Because that Venezuela system there, where it was coming across as a dictator and there was no opposition that could really stand against the man, I want you to pay attention to what these people did. They went in and they grabbed him. And I never want to see something like that happen to people who are pushing for the country. So it is very, very important that if I support any party, that I support those parties based on the fact that they are in line with the Constitution and in line with democratic practices. And I know some people are like, oh, you know, what you're saying might not be good for the people. No, trust me when I tell you what I was saying was probably the best thing for the PPP, because I know for myself what was coming. And the fact that the president was fast to respond to it, I thank you very much, sir. Right? Because one president just got flown out. And I don't want to see a good president or somebody who is working so hard to be mislabeled. Right? Now, this is very, very important. We don't want people to be mislabeled. And when there is any violation in the Constitution, it leaves people up and open to be wrongfully labeled. Right? So this is very, very important. Now that at least our concerns have been answered, the president has addressed the matter with this statement. For now, I would say that is a very good directive that we are headed in, where there are plans to bring in an opposition leader so that the government can be adequately formed and progress may continue. Okay? I will reaffirm saying what I've been saying for years now, and that is, under the PPP, there's still more progress. I do not want to see the progress of the country and the development of the country stagnated or slowed down because our leaders have to fight all of these allegations. That is not sensible. Okay? Very, very important that those things are handled correctly, because once again, geopolitics, okay, and local politics operate differently. And I don't think that the people of Guyana always understands that. We are so caught up with just the local politics because that directly affects us. But I need you to understand that geopolitics also directly affects the local politics, which affects us. So in an essence, it's all connected. All right? And it needs to be, you know, an issue by which you are going to focus on. You cannot just say our neighbors next door who got their problems does not affect us. It affects us. And I would also like the government to pay attention that sometimes when somebody tells you something, it's for your own good. It's not to attack you. To the PPP supporters out there, I want you to know when somebody says something, it is not to attack you. It is not to be an opportunist. It is not of any nature like that. But can you imagine if we were to fall into a state where we were considered a dictator country or a dictatorship? And next thing you know, people who are doing good are suddenly labeled as bad people. Now, I know in Guyana, we have a tendency of labeling people who speak out against whatever is happening. You know, if somebody talks out against your group, right? Maybe you feel the person is a bad person. Maybe you feel they don't like you. Maybe you feel there's some hidden agenda. Listen, man, my agenda is just to keep the country moving, man. Because once the country's moving, everybody benefits. There's no denying that currently Guyana is moving faster and further than it has ever moved. Okay? There's also no denying that the government has been taking steps to curb corruption. Now, that's going to be a hard game for them. It's going to be a very, very hard game for them, and they're going to need to curb the corruption within all of their institutions as rapidly as possible. And it is a hard job, because how do you find people who are not corrupt and still loyal to the party? That's probably the biggest challenge, right? How do you find people who are not corrupt, who are going to be loyal to the party? And I understand that seems to be the biggest question for everybody. There's so much people dealing with party loyalty instead of dealing with loyalty to the country, and who can actually see the bigger overall picture. And the biggest overall picture or takeaway from this particular scenario is, if we are not in line with democratic processes, what happened in Venezuela and other countries could happen in our own. And it is not something nice. It is something that will be completely detrimental to the development of Guyana. Mr. Correa, can you hear me this morning?
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. I would like to inform you of an update. If you haven't seen the update already coming through the media, the president and the administration, by way of the president, has addressed the matter about the opposition leader being sworn in. And they have confirmed that an opposition leader will be sworn in, which means that we as a country will be in line with our constitution, and we will not be considered a dictatorship of any sort, because that is probably the most dangerous consequence. And in my opinion, it came at the best time because of what's currently happening in the region. And this is...
Hold on, Mr. Snow, hold on.
Go ahead.
Certain things we can't disclose, I can't disclose here, which you should know. But first, I must congratulate the president if what you are telling me, that he will appoint a opposition, I don't care who it is, because we know what they call dictator system, and we know we are not that. But at the same time, Guyana around the world are calling, people are saying we have a dictator and trying to defend it. It's different from a dictator like what Mr. Maduro in Venezuela has been done. His opposition to another country.
Mr. Correa, can you move to a location where your internet may be a bit better? You are coming in and out on the call.
Are you hearing me better now?
I'm hearing you better at this moment. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Maduro had no opposition, and if you look upon it carefully, any country such as China, Russia, and many others, without an opposition, you becomes a dictator. The time for kingship is over. The democratic society after World War II, there was an agreement signed in Geneva, and people got to follow the rule. Any nation now along Latin America, South America, the Caribbean, and elsewhere without an opposition is considered a dictator system. So I want to congratulate the president of Guyana, Mr. Infant Ali, to appoint an opposition before we are branded in the hierarchy, not ordinary people, because a lot of people calling me, Correa, you got a dictator system. No, we don't.
I know. I've been hearing that. I've been hearing that from international counterparts. That it.
But yes,
so you know.
Talk show in the U.S., England, and other Caribbean countries, even in Barbados now, I get into things, and then I noticed something the other day about what they say, but Donald Trump say about Guyana, Barbados, and others, but this food stuff coming. If that is true, because AI could take you voice and put you like you saying it.
Gotta be mindful.
They could say each other, because I don't think Trump would say what I heard about fishes and all things coming from Guyana don't have a right, and he can ban it and all of that. That is only a beginning. If that is true that he said that, then he need a doctor right next to him right away. But I don't believe the man says he's a businessman. Well, and a businessman would have business anyway, and America believe in democracy and business. So no country run without a opposition is considered on the playing field.
A democratic nation. Because exactly. You must have a left and you must have a right. You must have an administration and you must have
an opposition.
Exactly. Yep, that's how democracy works.
Opposition, he went to war. Moses had opposition, he drowned the pharaohs. And many others, but we don't want to touch that now. It's a civilized world.
Well, I hope, Mr. Correa, I hope that the citizens of our country, especially those who tend to blindly follow politics, right? I hope that they can do their research and understand that people like Saddam Hussein and all them buys them, they were dictatorships. I want them to see and pay attention to how far America will go to institute democracy all the way across the world, much less
Listen.
in their backyard, based on the Monroe Doctrine.
Listen. Thank you. Listen to me, please. Saddam Hussein, Shah of Iran, the pine-faced man of Panama, Noriega of Nicaragua, not forgetting Chile in the 60s, what happened there, and many other hotspots. And if you remember, well, you don't know, for the Guyanese who remember the past 1960, the uprising, where at that time we were British, the Queen's sister, Princess Margaret, lived the Thursday night, and the Friday was Black Friday, fire and brimstone in Mackenzie, Buxton, Pleasance, because the United States would not sit down and allow no dictator behind their backyard, much less. And Guyana is a sovereign country. Mr. Ali, government, is spreading out his wings all over the country in development, and people are calling me, interrupting me many times. Oh,
Yeah. Errol said that's AI, sir. Trump is on Guyana's side. I definitely believe that Trump is on Guyana's side. I am actually a firm Trump supporter based on the options that we're giving in the United States. And the man is doing a good job as a president over there. Whether some people like it or not, he is putting America first. And one of the issues there, too, is that when you're putting America first, people need to understand that Guyana, Caribbean, these areas, right, is in America's backyard, right? So the Monroe Doctrine shall be used to govern what's going on. Hold on. I have a question here from Hot Shot and Carol. How the president can appoint an opposition when people speak on the 1st of September, Mansour have to call the meeting. Well, okay, Mansour have to call the meeting and go by votes, leaving out the ruling party. This shows that the PPP government is controlling the Speaker of the House. Now, I would assume that the Speaker of the House, being a PPP member, he's probably going to go in line with the plan that the government has. My concern is if that plan is constitutional or if it's not constitutional, but based on the statements that are going on, they are planning to swear in an opposition leader. Now, also going in line with the Constitution, there is no set stipulation of a timing for the swearing in of the opposition. It does state at, within a reasonable timing. Now, I would say that the issue lies there in that discrepancy that is within the Constitution, because it allows for politicians to use that discrepancy in their own context. And, I would recommend, right, any opposition going there, bring that to table in Parliament to modify, clarify, and set a timeline. Because as it is right now, based on the Constitution, they are allowed to play with that timeline. Whether it is morally right, whether it is right in certain fashions, that isn't even my point to say, but I know that legally, based on the language of the Constitution, it does allow that flexibility, and the only way to navigate that down is if you actually have a strong opposition that can argue the constitutional points. I'm just responding to a comment here, right?
Well, let me say something for your person with the comment. That Burnham had an opposition only by name. Dr. Jagan walked out of Parliament and allowed Burnham to do everything he wants. When he accomplished of the nationalization of many things, Jagan went back and Burnham proudly said, welcome the prodigal son. And if you listen to Nagamutu in a meeting in Queens, he says he used to take message both sides. So Guyana was running in a division with the name of an opposition which was not a opposition. It was like Judas who was walking with Jesus until he betrayed him. Today, in Guyana, Mr. Ali as a president, the man is young, is trying. Many people say, look the development, the bridge got fall down in a month. Look the street, the mud is stringing up. Look, they're building the Indian neighborhood, and I'm a mixed race. I don't take side from mother, brother, father, children. But he's doing.
He's
When
doing.
Turner was in power,
He's doing. Listen, my biggest concern is, and I'll tell you what's going on, Mr. Correa. Since I've been in Guyana, I've never seen this level of development happen in Guyana. I've never seen Guyana moving so fast.
Country, hold on, give me a hearing, please. The man is spreading out his wings all over his development, the interior. The road to Letem, coming through from Brazil, and in the Berbice area, the Essequibo. But the nation is so dense and not looking beyond the border of Guyana. We got too many problems in Guyana. We must acknowledge we got one racial group and one corrupt group. But I am saying amongst the nation, the Venezuelans are coming over. You are hearing so many bad things about them. Where were them when Hugo Chavez opened up Venezuela to 120,000 Guyanese under the Bono government? Give them free land, water, light. They only had to pay Bolivia, I think 500 Bolivia for the transport. So if we got to open up the border to our brothers and sisters who was at our rescue, why other people are criticizing them when they are calling them whores, killers? Are we not having plenty of them in the country? Under the Burnham government, how it was different. David Granger, well, he was played. He didn't have no much time to do nothing. But at the same time, I got people who call me. I said, listen, I'm a citizen in the United States. We will defend this country to the last, whether they like it or not. And all those ambassadors from America, whether they're diplomats, they laugh and talk with president, prime minister all over the world.
Yeah, them man, them doing a job, you know. Never mind they laughing and talking with presidents and stuff. Them man is...
Bring the report back to Washington. And to be fair, I am not allowed to say certain things. But I'm going to say cross the board. I don't want what happened to Maduro and his wife happen to Guyana at the moment, because Guyana might be the next hot spot. Listen carefully. Guyana might be the next hot spot. So let the president and others listen carefully. What become of Burnham? They say he died in the hospital. What become of Chetty Jagan? He went to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington. They say he died there. Listen to all this mystery. I don't think Sherlock Holmes even want to get involved here.
Mr. Correa, wait, stop, Mr. Correa, stop. I'm gonna stop you right there. You see that there's a problem when people overtalk, right? No, stop. There's a problem when people overtalk. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody is getting the message without going into full detail. But you see, your mouth and the fact that you're very old and you're dying, and the fact that you want to get out everything you can possibly get out in this world before you're dead and gone. Listen, stop right there. I have to stop you. Thank you very much. It's good to hear people's voices, but it's also better to moderate and to stop people at a certain point in time. Right? Right? So, you know, that's very important. Very, very important to stop people before they get ahead of themselves. Because if not, this program might be twisted, right? And switch around, right? And that is very, very important. Yes, Donette. And that is exactly what I have to do. Right? Now, mind I say, that man is also my father. And I don't play favorites. If you get out the line and you're going too far, I got to stop you right there in the interest of development of our country. Okay? The point that we try to make here is that if Guyana looks like a dictatorship on the international board, that is when the entire country is in danger. Okay? Anything perceived as a dictatorship will come under attack. I do not want to see my country come under attack. I do not want to see my country misrepresented on the global stage, because yes, Guyana, we are on the global stage. Okay? And like I said before Mr. Karai cut me off, I have never seen this level of development happening in the country in such a rapid way. Now, there's going to be some faults and there's going to be some things in between, but discussions like this are actually the right type of discussions to have that are controlled, educated, and informative, and in line with the law. Very, very important, right? Also, not condemning people for their freedom of opinion, I think is extraordinarily important. I was very, very appalled by the actions of some PPP members who actually started coming at me for trying to protect the country and trying to protect the image of our president and trying to protect the image of our government by saying, yo, we got to make sure that we're moving in line with the Constitution. Suddenly, I was very surprised to hear all sorts of nonsense. It is wrong. And, you know, it takes a strong person and a brave person to come out and talk the truth. Now, I believe that for balance, we need an opposition. I believe we need a strong opposition. I don't think we have a strong opposition. And that's been the point that I've been making from day one, is that I don't believe we have a strong opposition. Okay? I believe within the opposition currently right now, there are massive issues. Okay? I am hearing in internal talks within the opposition system. You can just watch it. You can watch it on TV. You can watch it on TikTok. You can watch, and the only thing that they're saying is very simple. It's like all the attention is focused on one particular individual in the opposition, and it's not focused on everybody else that actually makes up the opposition. There is an opposition leader, and then there's the body of the opposition. The same way we have a president who is the head of the administration, and then you have the body of the administration. And I find it to be very uneducated, right, of the people in our country who only want to be one-sided or who feels as if they are always under attack. PPP members, I am not attacking you. Calm the fuck down. I'm trying to protect our country, and I'm trying to protect our president and our ministers and our government people from being flown out. I'm trying to protect our country from being labeled as a dictatorship. And if I have internal knowledge of certain things, I am going to do my best to prevent the stagnation of the current progress that is moving on the ground in Guyana. Listen, man, I'm benefiting from the progress, man. And what I mean by I'm benefiting from the progress, I mean as a natural citizen here, I'm able to do better business. I've seen so many people growing. From 2020 to now, I can tell you, I've seen more persons becoming millionaires in Guyana by way of legal means, not connections and stuff, because I'm not connected to the PPP. You can speak to some of their members, they'll tell you they don't like me. Some of them are probably out there slandering me right now because they're fucking uneducated. And they don't realize that I'm speaking in the interest of the entire country and not just on behalf of one group. But I know that the PPP will suffer if this country is viewed as a dictatorship. And I don't support dictatorships. I'm a balanced person. And I know that when I talk the truth, some people may like it and some people may not like it. But I will stand on business. Also, when you see me putting out lives here, addressing the president or ministers or anybody, it is not meant as an attack toward them. But this is the fastest means of communication that I have to them. Because I refuse to go and stand in line and sit there and beg to have a point heard. Especially when those are points that need to be immediately addressed. When I come on this live and I put my safety, I put everything that I have on the line because I've been victimized before. So I know the pain of it. I know the attacks. I know the slander. I know the shit talk. I know all the character assassination. I know the spies. I know everybody that's there. I know what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. This thing is not no new thing. Throughout the history of a corrupted Guyana, this has always been the mode of operations. Coolie man selling out coolie man, black man selling out black man. Y'all fuckers ain't got no loyalty among each other. So I can't look under. I gotta look at the fact that there is a constitution and there are international policies that must be upheld in order to ensure that the country can move forward. Right? And it is concerning to me if by chance we have a weak opposition. And right now we currently have a weak opposition. If not, we do not have a fully functioning opposition. Okay? And that, based on our Constitution, is not legal. So, you know, our administration, who is currently sitting there, has a good plan in place. In terms of the appointment of offices, that's where I might have a bit of a concern, because I don't believe that you can appoint certain offices without an opposition leader based on how the Constitution is written. And I would just like to ensure that the party that I supported stays in line with the Constitution. This way, persons cannot argue about it later on and create the reason to undo the progress that is being done. But at the same time, if I see something crazy happening, I have a right to speak about it. And I should be able to speak about it without fear or prejudice or anything of that nature. Because if we can't have dialogues like this safely, then we are not in a democracy. If I come under attack for simply stating the facts, then we are not in a democracy. That would be solid evidence of a dictatorship in effect. There's no government that shall go without challenge. There's no law that shall go without challenge. There's no progress that shall come without challenge. Even wars contest challenge, hence war. It's two people against each other. What I am trying to prevent is for our country looking bad at the point in time where we need to be growing and working together. I believe in a one Guyana principle. But that one Guyana principle must also be well-grounded in democratic freedoms and rights. Can you imagine if everybody that talk come under attack, or everybody that talk get killed? What if somebody talking the truth and then you kill the only man that's telling you the truth? And the truth actually is in your interest, which is like crazy. So, you know, to the foolish PPP members that somehow think that I am somehow an opportunist, damn straight I'm an opportunist. I want the opportunities that are currently available in the country to keep coming. Okay? I want those opportunities to keep coming. The good, not the bad. And we are in a stage of, we're in a stage of change and transition. Okay? And until we are fully transitioned into the country that we are now becoming, all of these little details need to be checked. They need to be checked, they need to be addressed, and they need to be discussed. Because without proper dialogue, back and forth, everyone will remain in the dark and just be opened up to name calling and stereotypical behavior and slander and all that. No, I prefer not to deal with slander or stereotypes or biasness. I prefer to just flow with the law in its context, because at the end of the day, I said it before and I will say it again, if the small man in the country, the poor man in the country must be held to account of the law, then of course the people who are administering the law must also administer the law with credibility, dignity, and compliance of the law. And, you know, I can honestly tell you that the questions that I have had between yesterday, from the 1st of January to now, have been addressed. The president has personally addressed those issues through his statements on the media. Because that's how we communicate. I put my shit out on the media, my concerns as a citizen, respectfully, of course, and then they respond by way of action. Because we have an action-based government. And that in itself shows you progress. Right? Marcel, Glasgow, without proper legislation, the Guyanese population will become a minority and Guyanese all become second-class citizens in our own country. Nope, I can't say that. You will only be a second-class citizen in your country if you refuse to be a productive person in your country, or if you just have a worker mentality. Right? If you only have a worker mentality, then you will always be a worker. That has nothing to do with foreigners. That has nothing to do with investors, nothing like that. But if it is your expectation that somebody should leave their country, come and invest all their money in Guyana and not make a profit, well, then that is not sensible. That's not logical. And if that does not happen where people come to Guyana and invest in the money, then the opportunities that we are currently benefiting from will be lost. We should not be attacking the people who are trying to invest in our country. If our government is doing their part to bring investors into the country, we can't say that that is a bad thing, because without the investors in the country, thousands of Guyanese right now would not have additional pay or additional jobs. Okay? And I've heard many, many times people talking about the oil deals and this and this and this and how it seems kind of screwed up. But listen, Guyana didn't have many options, man. Guyana didn't have many options. Okay? Guyana didn't have its own oil equipment. Guyana didn't have the technical expertise. And because we didn't have all of those things, we had to pay. Maybe in 10, 15 years from now, when Guyanese have been trained correctly in those industries after working and building and gaining experience in those industries, Guyanese may be able to run it. They may be able to run it. But right now, I highly doubt that they have the intellectual capacity to run such a delicate system without blowing shit up. And I can tell you that with full belief behind what I say, because many people still can't understand the English language. They still cannot understand the English language. They still having problems understanding the shit that they read. You want them to go and be the bosses? Can you imagine how much shit is going to blow up? How much investment we would lose? How much damage would be done? And how much danger we would be in? We have to look at the bigger picture. But I do like to refute what I find as false being put in the media. Right? People are saying right now, I know some people say, okay, if Mr. Mohammed is sworn in as opposition leader, so on and so forth, the whole country will face sanctions. No, that is not true at this moment, because of the fact that the U.S. government has already indicted Mr. Mohammed. He is no longer just a sanctioned individual. He is somebody that is wanted for questioning in relation to alleged crimes committed. Okay? And in that regard, out of fairness for a man's civil rights, I have to speak fairly, and that man is allowed his day in court. I can't call that man a criminal. I can't call that man any names. It's not my place to sit there and call names. In fact, I do believe the name calling in politics is very, very wrong. I think it's very immature. Right? I think it's very, very immature. And I believe that it only leads to more conflict and less solution. So, of course, if I support the group, I want to see that group growing without so much conflict. But you can't grow by being one-sided. You can't grow by attacking people wrongfully for stating their opinion or stating their concerns. That is not the politics that the PPP or PPP members should be doing. It is distasteful. It is not professional. It's not conducive toward development. And it's going to create enemies for the fucking party. Fact. And I'm going to appeal to His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali to address members of the PPP who are conducting political discussions on behalf of the PPP as PPP members or supporters of the PPP, and not allowing fairness and truth to pass on the path. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't need to lie for the PPP. We don't need to hide anything for the PPP. It is not our duty to cover sins, right? It is not our duty to deflect accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, the leaders who are there in place, I'm pretty sure know how to defend themselves. So that is why when you see me come out here and say, well, these people are alleging this, and I say, show the books, I mean, show the books. Because I'm pretty certain that those people were smart enough that even if by chance they were committing a crime, they should have at least been smart enough to cover their tracks. And this is not me saying that it's okay for people to do anything wrong, but the reality is, in all political parties, there always going to be something funny, right? In every government that has ever existed from the beginning of history all the way through to now, there's always been some individuals who are corrupt, misled, or in there with their own agenda, okay? And what I'm trying to do with the PPP is to make sure that the PPP has been cleansed, okay? It needs to be cleaned, okay? My recommendation to the opposition is to ensure that you also clean up house and you have adequate representation there, and that they also have an adequate plan. Everybody knows that the Mohammeds have been indicted, which, you know, based on the fact that everyone's pushing for an extradition right now for the Mohammeds, it means that if Mohammed is nominated as the opposition leader by the opposition members of parliament, that is going to be very short-lived. And in order to not allow those who voted for the opposition members to lose their voice of representation, a recommendation was made that they should have multiple persons in a line of succession to ensure that those persons can take the mantle if and when the extradition happens for the Mohammeds. Because it's very hard to function as an opposition leader if you are arrested and you are in a different country and you are facing crimes for, you know, all sorts of allegations. And I keep stating allegations, and I don't call people criminals because I don't believe you're a criminal unless you have been tried. And even then, you know, how many criminals have the world had already who were leaders? Right? Ramesh, Mr. Snow, I heard you speak highly about one of your viewers, but looking at what this individual writes in your comment section makes me believe this person needs to use basic common sense when commenting. Listen, whether a person needs to use basic common sense or not, that individual is, in my opinion, a respectful individual. But once again, too, remember, everyone, sometimes things might be taken out of context, right? But that individual is a very knowledgeable individual. And, you know, it's a very dynamic individual, from what I've known. But everybody is allowed. You see, whether I agree or I disagree with everybody's comments, the fact is that everyone's allowed to make those comments. And, you know, of course, if I see name calling or I see anything like that, and I know that both of these individuals are good people, it's part of my duty as a servant of Jesus Christ to make peace among brothers. And to show good people that you can both be good people with different points of view, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Right? Now, I would just hope that all persons who are involved in discussions, commenting and stuff, all persons, we're all adults, everybody check yourself. Check yourself, think about it carefully, and do your best to, to speak your truth. But try your best to do so in such a responsible manner that it does not create more headaches than solutions. That's the best that I could do. Right? And, it's so hard to determine like what level and what level you shouldn't. So what I try to do is limit it to if people are insulting each other wrongfully or doing things of a personal nature in a general discussion, well, that's where I would kind of get on it and be like, yo, this shit is bad, right? But at the same time, I do listen to everyone's opinion. I do listen to everyone's opinions, and everyone is allowed to make their comments, provided that their comments are not necessarily attacking or insulting anyone else. So that being said, I would definitely check to see if there's any type of attack, because on this platform, we're all Guyanese. We're not necessarily PPP, we're not PNC, we're not APNU, we're not WIN, we're not that. On this platform, we are all Guyanese. And I would hope that persons can see that and become relatable to that point and understand that only through healthy discussions and dialogue shall real progress come. Right? And it's okay. I believe it or not, man, I think you and Arrow, man, you guys are both great people. So, differences of opinions for certain things, but you're both great people, and I'm pretty certain that if you guys knew each other personally, you'll probably be good friends, right? Because you're very similar in some areas, right? Both of you are dynamic individuals, right? But I have known Errol to be a dynamic individual with years of professional experience, right? Nobody's gonna be perfect. But allow everybody their opinion once their opinion does not trample upon your rights. Or they are not disrespecting you and stuff like that. But everyone is allowed their opinion. Fair enough? Fair enough. Right? And only to a point too, because, like my father right now, I've got my father calling me, and I know he wants to get back in on a live, and I know he wants to say certain things. However, I can't let my father, being an old man at the age of 73, overtalk and then tell people what the other part of the plan them is that's going to happen if this country does not get its shit together. Right? Daryl, exactly. We need to work together to make Guyana better. Okay? Now, I've told everybody before, I'm a supporter of good governance. Doesn't matter who is there. If they are governing the country good, as a citizen, I appreciate it, and I will support the positive that I see. But I will also condemn the negative. And if I see us headed into dangerous water, right, because I know how dangerous it could be, and drowning is very easy, just take a teaspoon of water to destroy you, So if I see us headed into dangerous water, I'm going to talk about it. Because it's the only thing that I can do as a citizen. That is it. Outside of that, like every other citizen, I must work, pay my taxes, do everything else that I got to do, be compliant, and do my part to see the country move forward. Unfortunately, I don't hear many educated commentators who are non-biased. I hear a lot of people on social media, I see a lot of groups on social media, and one thing that I can honestly tell you about all of the groups that I have encountered on social media, all of the political groups, a majority of them are very, very one-sided, and there is not much fairness on those panels. We must talk about the good, but we can't talk about the mistakes. Like how is that normal? How do you plan on improving yourself if you don't first review where you may be falling short. It's called self-reflection. Okay? The PPP once had a newspaper called The Mirror, if I'm correct. Do you know why their newspaper was called The Mirror? It was to reflect upon what is happening. Hence the term mirror. When you look in a mirror, you see who you are. You see your goods and you get to see your bads. And that was the original intention of the mirror. It was meant to reflect what was transpiring in the country. Okay? So that is what we are here on social media. We are mirrors. We are mirrors, and we are audio of the voice and the concerns of many, many people. At least I know I am. I can't really say for a fact, whatever. And I am reflecting that by which the constituents behind me request. And that is fair governance, transparency, progress. That's that, right? Fair governance, transparency, progress. So the only time you're going to hear me start talking is if any one of those three elements are being compromised or on the verge of being compromised. So hence, when you hear me talking about the constitutional breach, it is because if the Constitution is breached, that puts us in a geopolitical danger zone. Right? If our Constitution is breached, not just Mr. Muhammad could be sanctioned, but our entire nation can be sanctioned. Right? Why do I say that? Because if the Constitution is breached, that means the Constitution would have been breached by the current acting administration. And if the entire administration gets sanctioned because of breaches in our actual local constitution, then that in itself, ladies and gentlemen, would assure that Guyana cannot move forward. And that in itself is actually more dangerous than putting a so-called criminal as an opposition leader. That would be more dangerous. Just saying. Just saying. But now, based on the statement that the president made, he has assured the population, and I posted the video earlier, he has assured the population that an opposition leader shall and will be sworn in so that his government can continue to proceed in line with the Constitution. Now, the next part is to see how long it takes them. But I do believe something is going to happen very, very shortly. Very, very shortly. Based on all that I see, something is going to happen very, very shortly. Diane? Well, that's a concern. That, in my opinion, is a big concern. Because here's the reality. The president hinted that it may not even be a male. So if it's not the male, who is it going to be? Then a female. Because no, it can't be an anti-man. Or an in-between. Because he said male or female. And I don't care who it is. Y'all may be flooding. No, I'm not flooding. Yep. Well, that's a next concern there. Is that the opposition still needs to select who their leaders are. And I don't know who the opposition has selected. At least I haven't seen the opposition members come out. and say who their secondary candidate would be. Because right now, the opposition is only focused on one particular person. And that's not an opposition. An opposition needs to, you need to, basically the opposition needs to be able to mirror the government. And I don't see that, being something that's going to happen. Right? Pamela Fontanelli. Oh, it's Spanish. Listen. I don't think that's the case. But definitely a little change of scenery ain't too bad either. When it comes to, what is transpiring. We need more demographics in the country. It's always been black and Indian, Indian and black and Indian. Well, let it be a little bit more. Because last I checked, our nation had 6 races. And if more want to come and become Guyanese citizens and more workforce wants to come, we need the workforce right now in order to keep progress moving. I believe that allowing the country to have skilled workers from other countries is still one of the best ways to go. America and all of these great nations were built on migrant capacity and migrant labor, and history tends to repeat itself, so Guyana will more than likely follow trend. History, dynamics. You don't have to like it. That's what's been happening throughout history. Right? Right? So, it is what it is. However, that will also be a decision left to the administration on how they're going to handle the situation. Right? Well, if it's intense, it's intense. But I'm pretty sure if me as a civilian is up to date on a lot of geopolitical affairs and what is going on in certain areas, I am very certain that the president, who has access to all of the information and then some, is already working on a plan to address those matters. And if they're not, I shall bring it up in another episode on another topic. Right? Because that is something that will have to be addressed at some point in time. Exactly, Ganesh. The opposition focuses on one man, and there needs to be more of a collective approach. Yep. If not, they would have actually wasted all of their supporters' times. It cannot be focused on one man. It cannot. And that's one of the reasons why, too, I stepped back from politics, because I don't want to be in a political party and all the attention focused on me. That's like me having to take on all the work. I don't want that. You know how much work needs to be done? You guys ever understand? Somebody want to sleep, Right? Right? Some people want to sleep. I can't take on all this. God, it's too much to take on. Never get the chance to sleep. Okay? Look at our president. Doesn't he look a little stressed out? Me boy went from thick to slim. Now you get back thick. I know the feeling. Mr. President, I know the feeling. If you watch my lives, you will see times when I get fine because I'm overworking. And there are times when I look like, I got a break. That's life. That is life. But the main takeaway from this that I really want the people of Guyana to focus on is that our president has acted diligently, responsibly, and he has made statements in line with constitutional order. Now, just as I stated in one of my posts before, the opposition needs to know how to be an opposition. They need to know it should not just be a one-man show. There's got to be more substance to that. Who are the other candidates that the opposition is going to put up to become opposition leader? Because I assure you, the United States government did not indict the man without the intention of bringing that man before the court in the United States. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. But it's just a fact. We got to put one thing in our head. The opposition is the PNC all along. So who do you think will be back not long from? Yep. Because if... Who's this? Because if it be the case, right, that the secondary person is who I think it is, then, ladies and gentlemen, then APNU will eventually be back. Or PNC. Our PNC-minded person will become back the opposition, which defeats the purpose of an independent group or third party. It defeats the purpose. This is why we are asking, and the population is asking, to see who the other members for potential opposition leader will be. Because it's almost a surety that based on the legal processes being launched against the Mohammeds, that Mr. Mohammed will be extradited to face the allegations levied against him. Notice, I'm not calling this man a criminal, because this man is not a criminal. Or in my book, and based on the legal definition of what a criminal is, this man is not a criminal. Not legally. Maybe in the people's opinion. But I have learned not to judge too fast. I've learned to take everything with a grain of salt. I have learned that all sorts of people are accused and alleged for all sorts of things. I have learned through experience that not all allegations are factual. But more importantly, I've learned that every man deserves his day in court. Every man has the right to face his accusers. Every man has a right to be represented or to speak and represent his standpoint or his view on those matters. Outside of that now, there is the talk about the responsibility that the opposition has to their constituents. And that is the responsibility of representation. So, for the 15 seats that the Win Party received, if Mr. Mohammed is not there, who is going to represent the interest of those citizens who have chosen Win as their representatives? That is the only question that should be asked at this moment. And I am certain right now, based on everything that I've heard, if the opposition was to select somebody else that was viable without any type of issue or static behind them, then the opposition leader could in fact take effect, or a new opposition leader could take their place, and the country could continue to progress. Mr. Mohammed can go face his charges. God bless him if he wins and comes out, then he could come back, he could file in and resume, right? But if it be the case that he go over there and they have a lot of evidence or something happens there and then he is convicted, then, you know, that creates a whole different type of circumstance. And I guess we're going to have to cross that bridge when we get there. At least for citizens, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. Because there's only so much that we can realistically do. I would like to thank Mansour Nader. I would like to thank the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I would like to thank the administration for addressing that constitutional matter with the sense of urgency in which they did. And once again, that is proof that the government is listening. They may not respond to everybody out there who is cussing up, behaving crazy, or pushing lies on their platform. But I must thank them for responding to the questions and the concerns that are posted on this platform. Snow, do you believe the House speakers deliberately put the opposition swearing in on hold because of the U.S. demand? I believe that the PPP is playing politics. And I believe that it is smart politics. So I don't give them wrong. Because at the end of the day, you know, you got two people fighting each other. It's a fight. It's a war. What do you expect? You expect handshake and hugs? Right? Right? Miss Kellawan, no. I will not. Because this is my show. And it's not my father's show. My father also has his own channel. So definitely I allow commentary. But I don't allow commentary that rambles on. My father is an older man. Right? And I look to him for a certain degree of information. Because my father also has a lot of history in his head. But because he's older than me does not mean he is more grounded or more disciplined. It does not mean that he is better at carrying on this type of discussion, right? So with respect to my father, I give credit where it's due. If you're there and you have facts, I will ask you about the facts and answer clearly, answer correctly without going into 10,000 different things, because it's hard enough to stay on track sometimes and at the same time, you know, answer all commentary and everything. And then, you know, if you're having a discussion, you're answering questions. Maybe my father feels that because he's my father, he can always overtalk me, and I'm going to have a problem with that. There are rules and there are precedents. And those rules and precedents, at least I know on this channel, this channel is my country. I must govern it fairly. It must be governed with respect and kindness. Right? Ramesh, I don't need to protect my father, bro. My father is 70-something years old. He's lived his life. In fact, if anything, my father needs to protect me. Because if somebody attacks me, my father can go and get rid of them. And even if he is facing prison for his charges, they ain't locking him up for very long, are they? Don't be fooled. The older you get, the more dangerous you get. When you're young, you got a lot to lose. When you're old, you got a world to conquer. So let people not make mistakes in relation to what those situations are. Plus, that is my father. He is one of the bravest, most arrogant warriors I know. Right? Just letting you know. If anything, people need protection from him. Right? Not to protect him. The man is quite strong. Quite strong. Right? But often, you know, he's got so much to say and he just wants to say it all at once, and that kind of makes a conversation very hard because you end up bouncing to 50 different topics before you address one topic clearly and concisely. And for Mr. Karaya, if you're listening, you know, that's been your problem all the time. You talk about 500 things at one particular point in time, and you expect that everybody would have the same attention span, same intelligence, or be as fast or politically knowledgeable as you are, that they can speak and counteract the way you do it. And that is a false assumption that everybody has that level of intelligence. Fact. And I love my father, but right is right and wrong is wrong. There are rules. The same way there's a constitution and everything else, there are rules. And yes, Diana, his father is definitely more capable of protecting his son. Yes. My father is way more capable of protecting me than I am of protecting him. Why? Because he actually has less to lose at his age. Right? Ganesh Singh, I would close off by saying Guyanese need to work together and build a better country. The PPP government is doing a great job, but they need to get rid of the ones who are corrupted in the party. Damn straight, that's my concern. To all fairness, the win is the opposition party and needs to nominate their leader and let the country keep moving. Yep, that is a fact. But at the same time, if they nominate, and I think that might be the concern, you know, of the current government. It's not the fact that they say that they're nominating Mr. Mohammed. It's the fact that with all the drama going on around Mr. Mohammed, they don't see the secondary person who is going to take Mr. Mohammed's place. Because the probability of Mr. Mohammed being flown out as an opposition leader is extraordinarily high. And it's a precedence that we have not seen before here in Guyana. But it is a very, very serious one. And, you know, it must be monitored in the interest of the development of everything here in Guyana. Me, as somebody who is invested in Guyana, right? I have a great degree of concern because I'm also calling people into Guyana to invest on a regular basis. And I don't want to mislead those who have followed my advice. I want to see that the country keep moving and everybody keep growing. Right? So, you know, at least I could tell you, I've experienced growth under the PPP system, more so than I've ever, you know, experienced when APNU was there. When APNU was there, it was very, very unfair. Everything was very, very slow. It's very, very stagnated. And if I have to choose between the bullshit that's going on in the PPP and the bullshit that's going on in APNU, I'm definitely going to choose the PPP because you see more tangible results. Yeah, there's still talk about corruption and stuff like this, but I do see the president making steps to address those. But also, as a concerned citizen, I must state my piece because I see how we are looking on the geopolitical stage. And with all of these things happening within the region, we need to focus and we need to pay attention. Okay? Exactly. Safety and fairness. That is what it's about. Safety and fairness. Right? And progress. We want to see progress. We want to see progress. Right? So, you know, I will close off by stating that currently, based on the statements I have put out on my live, based on the recommendations made, I am content to know that the president has heard our opinion, our concerns have been considered, a statement has been made in relation to the swearing in of an opposition leader. I have heard the internal concerns, I have heard the external concerns, I've heard sides from everybody. And currently, based on what I now know, the only thing possibly holding back the swearing in of an opposition leader is that there is no knowledge of the secondary person that will become the opposition leader in the event, which is a highly probable event, that if Mohammed is chosen as the opposition leader, he is more than likely going to be flown out for a trial to face whatever allegations were levied against him. And then we will be absent of an opposition leader, which will put us back in this same particular position. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us ensure and recommendation to win in the party. Please pick your runner-up, because the faster the opposition picks their runner-up, is the faster you can send your runner-up into the seat of opposition leader, and the country can continue to move forward in compliance. Right? But based on the statements that I have received, based on the messages I've received, based on the tone and the understanding and everything else connected to it, I do believe that it is the intention of our president to get an opposition leader in place within possibly the next 2 weeks, based on all the factors I am seeing. But I don't think it's going to take another month. Bottom line. Right? Bottom line. Pamela, blessing my sister. Enjoy Colombia. It's a beautiful place. Beautiful place. Lots of culture there. Lots and lots of culture there. In fact, I love Colombia. I think it's freaking amazing. Right? Right? So, you know, I think it's amazing. I love Colombia. Ramesh, last question. Correct me if I'm wrong. From my understanding, we have many more extradition cases in Guyana for serious crimes. But why pushing on the Muhammad case and not the rest? Well, political interest. Political interest is definitely the case. Muhammad is a political adversary, potential threat. There are a lot of reasons. If there's a dog barking at your gate and he want to bite you, you probably ain't going to step outside until you remove the dog, right? So, in this case, there could be a lot of personal interest there. There could be a lot of things there. I've seen Mr. Muhammad bringing a lot of questionable scenarios to the forefront. I do believe that in the interest of the public, the government should be as transparent as possible in all of the allegations levied against the government and its ministers and so on and so forth. I do believe that those things need to be addressed and not be addressed by Facebook comments alone. I do believe you need to address it with firm and solid facts. This way, no one can ever complain or say that this was not addressed correctly. I believe the other day I placed a comment on Miss Suzanne's thing, and I told her, listen, man, you ain't got nothing to worry about. Just show your books. Show your books. The only thing people could really accuse the PPP administration for at this moment is corruption, and normally corruption tied to asset collection or financial gains and stuff like that. So once they haven't done anything like that, and there is no solid proof to show that they've committed some type of skullduggery within the system, then I don't think anybody has anything to worry about. Right? But they will attack Muhammad because, as opposition, you have already declared your position against the government. Right? So, you got to understand, Mr. Muhammad also did put out allegations that the president was somehow involved in all of these other things and connected to. So these are very dangerous situations, right? So of course they're gonna hit him hardest because he's attacking the president. He's attacking the president. And if he's attacking the president and does not expect a backlash, well, then that's not sensible at all, is it? Just saying. Thank you, Irma. Uma. Abdullah Uma. Darshan. Thank you. Yeah, so, but that should be common knowledge. That if you swing at a man, he's going to swing back. And if you swing at a very powerful man, he's going to swing back really hard. But all of this is fair play in politics. May not be morally right, may not be whatever the case is, but that's the game. That's the show. We can't run away from that. That is a fact. But what I am happy about, and I hope the PPP members and all PPP people, I'm not ignoring you, Pamela. Right? There's a no-fly zone in Colombia. I understand that because everything that's happening in Venezuela right now is probably not going to be the best place to go at this moment. But if you're in Colombia, you'll probably be okay. Right? Yes. But getting back to it, this is the rule of the game. This is the rule of the game. And everybody who goes into the game needs to know the rules. Well, whatever gonna happen, I definitely want to see. Like I said, I'm watching the show. Let's see what is happening right now. It looks like we have, you see, and this is what I was talking about, right? This whole region right now is going to have some problems. And that's why I tell you, following the Constitution is really, really important. Because if people are breaking the Constitution right now, you don't know what could happen. Sometimes everything could be seeming like it's good. Next thing you know, a team of Navy SEALs come in and snatch up some of the big guys in the country, and that's it. What could happen then? Pure chaos. I don't want to see chaos in Guyana. I need to see Guyana governed properly. Okay? And what is currently happening in Guyana right now, if we are not a democratic country, then we will be in jeopardy. Right? And I don't want to see that happen to anybody in Guyana. And trust me, if that happens, I don't care how powerful or how much money you think you got, or how much protection you think you got. If them buys them come for you, they will collect you. And there's no amount of corruption that will get you out of their hands. And anybody bullying freedom of speech or oppressing other people or attacking other people or doing things, let me assure you, it's been documented. And there will be a reaction. Let me assure you that with full certainty. Every action has a reaction. And if people put out corrupted actions, it shall have a swift and detrimental reaction. Right? So in terms of everybody else who needs to be extradited, you know, if they're not technically attacking the government and it is not as significant as this matter, it will be addressed. I'm pretty sure other persons will be extradited when the time comes. But I do believe that if the United States is involved, the process is going to be a bit more fair. I can't say it's going to be 100% fair, but I can say it's going to be a bit more fair and a bit more transparent. At least if they're going to do it, they have a law, they have a constitution, they have a way and a manner in which that they have to follow due process in order to make that happen. And what I see right now they are doing is following due process to a T. And when you see the U.S. government following due process to extradite somebody based on every letter of the law, understand they're coming. Do I believe there will be a no-fly zone over Guyana because of the situation in Venezuela? Nah, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I don't think... Listen, man, and I'll tell you why I don't believe so. The fact that they're able to get into Venezuela, collect Maduro and his wife, and get them out of there, and bombs ain't fly yet. And bombs ain't fly yet. I don't think we have much to worry about. But if there is a no-fly zone in effect urgently, in which case, ladies and gentlemen, then I would believe that that is all just part of a preventative measure to decrease the possibility that any type of reaction will happen. Yes, but that's, you know, effectively a no-fly zone over Venezuela. But, you know, planes can detour and just come around Venezuela, please, so that it's not messing around. And come. Trust me, what's happening in Venezuela is not going to stop the war. The U.S. made sure that they crossed every T and dotted every I. China, Russia, all those people. That's why that whole thing had to go down like that. Because at the end of the day, the Chinese are there to ensure that their assets are protected. The Russians are there to ensure their assets are protected. And nobody don't want no heat from America right now because America lawless too. And when they're ready, and bombs scud away, right? Don't play games. And Trump is not an easy man to go and play games with. Okay? Not an easy man to play games with. That man ready for do unnecessary. So, you know. So even if there is a temporary ban of flying, it's not going to be for a very long period of time. Right? You know. Yes, while the USA is conducting due process and is contingent upon Guyana, it is contingent upon Guyana to deem the case extraditable. And yeah, that is absolutely right. Unfortunately, in this type of situation, right? You know, where the government has controlled the court system for so long, because you know this is Guyana. What do you think is going to happen? And it's going to happen legally. Them Bides played politics well. Gotta give Jack his jacket. Once again, it proves my fact that they were still the smartest political group to run the country. Because if they can do that, manipulate the whole thing, God bless them. They did politics. Y'all like politics? Politics. In the flesh. They played politics. Right? They played politics. However, now because of the international matters that are pressing issues, I shall now go and address those matters. For if this is really what is transpiring, then for those of you who have sense, you will make preparation in the meantime. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you, God bless all of you. God bless the president for acknowledging my commentary here. Thank you so much for listening to our voices, because we are some of the people that supported you. Thank you very much for bringing and addressing the matter and acknowledging to the public that there is the full intention to follow the fullness of the Constitution to a T. And with that being said, I've taken off my other videos because my videos are not there to insult people. It's not there to anger people. It is only there to remind people that there is a danger and a consequence if we're not doing it according to the book. Because I would hate to see Guyana stop and the progress that has been made come to a halt. Too many people are depending on this administration to be successful. I am one of those people. A friend, not an enemy. Okay? But a real friend tells you the truth. Whether you like it or not. Okay? So, that being the case, we got a question here. Do you think the capture of Maduro can lead to World War III? No, I believe the capture of Maduro ends a potential war in this hemisphere and in this region. I do believe that. I believe that the capture of Nicolas Maduro ends certain circumstances that have been dividing this region. And since Nicolas Maduro has been captured, we can look forward to seeing many Venezuelans returning home to Venezuela, which means we will not have a migration problem such as everybody has vastly been describing. Do you know what's going to happen now? Let me tell you what's going to happen now. I just want to make sure that you know. With Maduro gone, people who are conducive to our doing business with the United States will start to do back business with the United States. Venezuela will be restructured. Their refineries will be resupplied. Venezuela's wealth will come back. And then, trust me, Guyana can't catch up to them. Because they have a bigger workforce. And they have better cooperation among their people. Right? So you can now consider that the issue with Venezuela will be completely wrapped up in 3 to 6 months. Let me give you a timeline. 3 to 6 months. The Venezuelan economy will start to stabilize as fast as the people in Venezuela who are loyal to Maduro back down. The whole Venezuelan economy shall come back to balance. Right? and our region will once again be in a peaceful and productive state. Right? People who have migrated to Trinidad and all will be headed back home shortly, because now they don't have to fear a certain level of victimization. Trust me when I tell you, those Spanish people never wanted to leave their country to go into other people's country and get treated like shit. They didn't want that. Okay? I'm pretty certain they wanted to be home with their family and loved ones and abuela and you know, their hermosas and all of this shit, their sisters, their brothers, and eating some arepas and chilling with a cerveza in their hand. I sure know they would have preferred that. So they can look forward to a large remigration happening back to Venezuela within the next 6 months, based on the stability of the economy and what's about to happen there. Right? I believe either Juan Guerrillo or whatever his name is, or whoever it is that was basically supposed to be the last president of Venezuela but was bullied out due to the dictatorship. I believe as soon as that person is instated into the presidency of Venezuela, all of those international ties and everything else are going to come back in line, and that is it. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly how they deal with the sanctioned individual. It's just that the sanctioned individual from our country was not the president, so we did not have to worry about that. Okay? Just making sure everybody knows this. We did not have to worry about that. Right? Now, for all of the Muhammad supporters out there, God bless you guys. You're well entitled to your right to support whichever Muhammad you are supporting. At this particular point in time, I support Dr. Irfan Ali. Or is it Muhammad Irfan Ali? I believe his name is Muhammad Irfan Ali. Right? But I always just say, you know, His Excellency, Mr. President, Dr. Irfan Ali. Right? But I think that there's a Muhammad somewhere in his name. Right? I could be wrong. Right? But I'm almost certain of it. Right? Most Muslims have it. Right? You know, something extra in their name. So these are all things that need to be considered. Diane Singh, yes, I am very happy for my Venezuelan friends and for all the Spanish people that I've dealt with who are here in Guyana, who are crying about the unfair treatment over in Venezuela, which made them run and become migrants in a strange land and, you know, been subjected to all sorts of other shit. So I'm very happy for all of them, because now they can go home. Everybody deserves the right to go home. So now they can go home. Right? So that's it. And in one quick swoop, President Trump has done it again, and he's fixing the world step by step. Maybe not in the way that everybody understands, but definitely a very effective manner. So I salute President Donald Trump for his actions. Right? So, you know, it is what it is. See, once again, proving to be a great world leader. It's a fact. Right? God bless America, and God bless Guyana, and God bless all viewers. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.